Okay, so this is March 25th, 2021. It's like 20 to 7 in the morning, and I've been up since 5 a.m. Anyway, I wasn't going to do a video for a little while because my last video is very important for it to stay up there and not get lost in with all the other videos. Now, mind you, it's a 2.5 hour video, so most people aren't going to listen that long, right? The average listening time was 38 minutes, and it's dropped down to 23. So people aren't getting the full message, right? Either one, they don't care. Two, they disagree with anything and everything because they know everything and they've already got it set in their head as to what they think. Or they just don't have the patience. They're kind of like airheads. They're flighty, right? They can't focus for very long. Lots of people are like that. Even me sometimes. More so now because of all the stress. But anyway, I'm sitting here thinking. And, you know, I don't know what society is thinking in terms of being tattooed with their go passes, health passes. Because that's basically what it's boiling down to, is like a tattoo. Right? And I'm at a moral crossroads. Well, not really, but I kinda am, right? In regards to, you know, where do I stand in society and what's my role in it, you know, and how do I want to continue contributing to the greater good of society, even though society is going down the toilet, right? And there doesn't seem to be much greater good of anything anymore, except for maybe the ones pulling the strings, right? They're the ones that are getting all the goods. Well, everybody else is going down the toilet. Now, it's always been like that to some degree, right? You know, it's been accelerated. It's going at a faster pace with more people going down the toilet, and that core group of individuals that manipulate society and engineer society, right? Create that manufactured poverty and that manufactured wealth, that divide between those that have and those that have not. You know, I mean, they're going along business as usual, so anything that's going on doesn't directly affect them like it does with people such as myself. But I'm in a unique situation where, you know, I've been a community activist for a long time within my own right, you know, doing the best that I could under my circumstances. And I've made the financial investments, the emotional, you know, the physical, all of it for 20 years, people. Right? And I've mentioned this before. I have to do a renewal on my federal trademark stateside, because that's what you do every 10 years. It's just business. It's nothing personal. It's just a requirement from federal governments to do that. And that's coming up in a little while. I thought it was last year, but it's actually this year. So I have to make a decision, right? And one of the key factors of what that trademark represents, obviously, is two countries coming together for the greater good of society. to build in safety nets where there might not be any, or to compensate and to supplement safety nets that are already in communities. But that's a hard sell, especially when you're an impoverished poor woman with mixed kids being gang stalked. But regardless, 20 years later, I'm still here, shaking my head like, debating whether I should fold in the cards. We've got these bank accounts that, honest to God, I'm like, I haven't done anything with them, people. I haven't even phoned the bank. I should bring these to court when I go to court and throw them right next to the government's lawyer and say, what you gonna do about these things? Huh? What you gonna do? Mr. Lawyer for the government? Tell me, this is 20 years of what? So, I'm like, well, what are you trying to do here after 20 years? I could call dissolution on the nonprofit, phone up the board director and say, look, you haven't been doing very much, and obviously you're stressed out, I'm stressed out, everybody else that's connected to the foundation is stressed out, and, it's like, maybe we should call it dissolution. Fold it in. Be done with it. Cut your losses. Don't renew the trademarks. As they fade out, they fade out. Irregardless of what the government decides to do with them when it gets to court, because ultimately they have to answer as to how they've treated my family all these years and basically publicly humiliated us to the point where, there's probably quite a few people who wouldn't want to participate in the foundation based on the stigma and the overcast, the cloud, right? That little dark cloud that floats by, that kind of thing, the rumorville, right? The accusations, the mumble jumble of, right? Must be something wrong with her. She has all this bad luck in her family. No, people, it's not about bad luck. It's about being sabotaged. Okay? And right now, the NDP of British Columbia, Canada, is sabotaging the foundation. And it's odd because it started off with the NDP, right? I was under an NDP government when I created the foundation. I was proud of the union. I was proud of British Columbia and Canada. I felt like I had a fucking fighting chance, right? I felt comfort in knowing that we had a strong public union sector so that those that were oppressed could quite possibly rise above what oppressed them. If I never felt like that in 1999, the year 2000, I would not have done what I did to where I am with what I've got today. Okay? But you see, along came the BC Liberal government in 2000, 2001, and it was a long 16 grueling years of oppression. And of course, gang stalking and the targeting of my family, the sabotaging of my efforts, didn't matter what it was, right? They made everything so difficult. Many times I came close to bankruptcy. Not that I could go bankrupt, but, always hanging on a financial thread within that manufactured poverty box. And then to start having loved ones either disappear, turn into drug addicts, like hardcore junkies kind of drug addict, right? Medically kidnapped, disappeared, or murdered, and murders are being covered up, and then illegal organ harvesting comes into the mix, and then snuff movies, perhaps, because of Sierra being lured, and, I mean, like, but that's the reality of it, people. Okay? That's the history of the nonprofit. And just because it's happening within my family doesn't mean it's not happening in other people's families. And it is. And it has been. It's just now, with what our governments are doing, they made it easier for them to target others. Like they, as a government with the public union sector, propping up their own wages and pension plans and all this other stuff at the expense of exploiting those who cannot defend themselves against heinous acts. More people are going to suffer through that. While our governments now basically tattoo everybody with their inoculations and their easing in of partner groups that will make sure that people get them, because if they don't get them, they don't get to fly. They don't get to go to a concert. They don't get to go to a freaking park event. Which brings me into the fray. Okay? Right? It doesn't matter if it's a poor person in a box being buried in the ground, or if it's a rich person in the same kind of box being buried in the ground. Okay? You're dead. You're in the ground. Right? It's what goes into the ground in terms of, well, I know what they did to my daughter, but I don't think they got her soul. They may think they got her soul, but first of all, you can't take the soul of an innocent child. You can't. God wouldn't allow it to happen. And Sierra was so beaten down that by the time she died, people, trust me, her mind was in the state of an innocent child. Okay? Okay, that's not what I'm trying to say. So, alright, I have a Fed trademark name. I can do park events, whatever. I've done them. The question now is, do I want to participate in this satanic act of tagging people like cattle in order to be able to say, when I do a park event, that they can come in and participate because they've been basically tagged. I mean, it won't be in an ear like a cow, but it will be on a card. Or, as we know, they want to bring in, biometrics with just the eyes or your hand or whatever it may be in order to go through doors or to receive things or to be able to do things. Is this what the foundation represents in terms of federal trademarks, trying to contribute something back into society for all the right reasons? No. What the government is presenting to me now, as a founder to a legitimate nonprofit foundation that stepped off with the right foot, with all the right reasons, with all the right conception of why it should be done in terms of, again, if I felt that my government was anti-public, I would never have done it. But 20 years forward, they are now anti-public, which puts me in a position that I have to decide, do I want to get on that bandwagon? And, they've already made it hard for me. They've already sabotaged it. They've already decimated half my family. They've got me in perpetual lockdown with poverty, right? As they're circling my being so that they can, inoculate me to become like my daughter Sierra. Basically, addicted to the needle. Right? So why would I want to promote that for other people if I wouldn't want it for myself or for my family? So I don't know if the trademark is even viable anymore, considering what our governments are doing, because the trademark sure in hell wasn't created to start tagging people and making sure that they have a green card or a go pass card before they crawl in, cross the gate. Before they cross the gate, before they crawl in, right? Before they cross the gate to come into a park event, to promote universal school meal program and school restoration. Like, that isn't, do you ever notice school meal programs and school restoration and all that good stuff? None of that's even a priority for governments anymore. They're instead too busy running around making sure that they have laws to legally kill people and then call it, doing those people a service. I mean, that's the political agenda. Out here in British Columbia, Canada, they're actually shutting down hospices that refuse to initiate people to kill people under their MAID legislation. Right? If they don't agree to do it, they don't get to operate their business in terms of looking after people who are dying without forcing them to kill themselves, or coercing them to kill themselves because they're depressed for one day. You know? No, the government doesn't have a right to enforce murder, no matter how you want to dress it up and make it look nice. Right? But that's what they're doing. So what? You're going to come to my park event and we're going to encourage you to go home and encourage your loved one that's laying in a bed that can't move, that's slowly but surely dying, to make it quick and kill themselves off tomorrow because they can, because the government said so. And as a matter of fact, they kind of expect you to do it because they're not trying to protect you from not having that done to you. It's like the complete reverse opposite, people. Well, it's the same thing like a park event, right? If I don't stand up against the government for what they've done to this foundation and the federal trademarks over a period of 20 years, okay, right? You start off on the right foot, you quickly get slapped in the face, punched in the gut, kicked at the knees, well, chopped off at the knees, for 16 years under a draconian government that was pushing, what, the Winter Olympic Games? Oh, please. What did the Winter Olympic Games do for British Columbia, Canada? Absolutely nothing, considering nobody can even gather anymore. Unless, of course, they get tagged. So what? I won't be able to do a park event unless I agree to check everybody's temperature? Like, what the fuck is that? No. No. That's blackmail, people. That's extortion. That's being fucking getting ready for the gas chambers. So, when I go to court, right, I figure like this. I've already started. Serving my government, I think, is pretty easy, because it goes to the Parliament buildings, to the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, or something like that. Just one department. I already have it. I just have to get it in the envelope. I'll go to the courthouse, make sure I've got everything in there correctly, which I think I have everything already, what I need. And then I go off and I send it through registered mail. And then I go back to the courthouse and I just do an affidavit to swear that I've served my government. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. So I'm going to be doing that, like, within the week, people. Within the week, right? And because I know how these scoundrels are, honest to God, I know how these scoundrels, because they're scoundrels, okay? I know how they are. I am going to make sure that I have a written copy, okay? I'm just brainstorming right now. Okay, this is a rough draft of what I'm going to say when they call me in. Because if they ignore me, then I go back and a judge can make judgment on them, and I don't think they're going to want that to happen. So they're going to call me in, okay? We know that. And they're already choked with me, okay? Because they know about my YouTube channel and all this shit. Whatever. So, I'm going to write things down. I'm going to type it out. And then when I get to court, and it's my turn to talk, versus talking up at the top of my head, like I did last time, right? And I felt I really had to try, because, you know, they get impatient with you. Are you done yet? Like, they're rude to you when you get there. They really are. Because it's already predetermined before it even gets to the judge. It goes through, you know, another person's desk to get approval whether it's going to move forward or not. And if you get a no on it, you know, when it gets to the judge, it's already predetermined. So, knowing that, you know, it's like, you still have to go, okay? It doesn't matter. So, right now, I'm just writing down, I don't know. It's just all the same old going around in circles. Right. They know it too. That's why they keep adding on more to the pile, because the circle just gets, you know, more like that. But the way the world is going, I don't know. They need to be held to account for 20 years of bullshit. Right? 20 years of bullshit, people. Okay? And now they've brought me to a bigger pile of bullshit that, one, I disagree with in terms of if I was to do a park event, for example. I wouldn't expect people to go through the gate, basically, to come into a gated park just so that it can be verified that they've been tagged with their inoculation and their accompanying go card with it before they would be allowed into the park event. That would go against everything and anything that I've ever stood up for or worked for. Okay? Not to mention my own personal reasons. Okay? So I have to write that in here somehow, some way, so that when I get to court and it's my turn to say something, I'm going to read what I wrote, make sure that they each get a copy of it in written form, basically. I'm going to record the proceedings, because they exploit vulnerable people who cannot defend themselves. That's why they get away with what they do. So this is my insurance that no judge is going to falsify his transcripts after the fact. I already been through that, remember? And I have a big decision to make in regards to what I want to do with these trademarks. Because if I can't do park events unless I jump through 1,000 more hoops, it was enough I had to jump through 1,000 before under good times just to do a park event in terms of licensing and food safe and security and this and that and blah, right? Park insurance, okay? That all costed money, people. Money that I never got back, okay? But it was done in good spirit, okay? So, you know, if it was 1,000 times harder in the past, under good times, and now the government's making it 1,000 times harder to bring in good times, after they've basically sabotaged good times, oh yeah, okay. No. So therefore the government needs to be held to account for the destruction that they bring, not only to families on an individual level, but also to what they bring to the community, and as you know, in terms of disrupting the flow of civilization for their own method of madness to gain wealth for them basically, their union. So I am going to read this as a rough draft, and then I'm going to end this video, because why not? Now I'm bouncing around, I'm just writing, filling in blanks. I have to go sit down in front of my other computer at some point and try and type this out into paragraphs. And being that I've only got about 10 minutes to talk, because that's pretty much all they allow you, until they tell you to go home and what is that called? Amend your notice of claim. Well, I'll be like, oh no, Your Honor, I'm not amending nothing. Nothing. Because I've already got it down to 19 pages. Right? So, what's the point? You had me go and amend, and then when I amended for Uncle John, your people didn't even acknowledge that it was on the fucking file. So why don't you investigate that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. They tried to play it off like it wasn't important, because they knew that whatever they fucking did was fucking cagey in a court of law under the rules. But because I didn't have a lawyer representing me to catch how they were breaking the rules, they got away with it, people. So I'm not amending shit, because it's already been determined before I even get into the courthouse that it's going to be dismissed. Because it's that simple. That's how easy it is for them to do it. Right? But while I'm there, you know, I'm going to remind them. This is them. This is what they are. Not what my family has been or what my community has been, but what they've been as a government. Whether it was the BC Liberal government and now the NDP, New Democratic Party. Right? Government is government. Gang stalking equal if... Now, this is just writing down, getting ready to, you know, the plaintiff states, right? I'd have to put the plaintiff states gang stalking is equal, if not past, domestic terrorism Because for me, it's like a form of domestic terrorism. My family has been domestically terrorized by basically government employees and their partner groups that lead to guaranteed death, simply because I've already had 3 family members die within the last, 5 years? Well, no. Uncle John died in 18, Sinead died in 18, and Sierra died in 2020. So in the last 3 years, people, 3 deaths. Okay? So I can pretty much honestly say it's guaranteed death. In other words, where's the next one coming in? Every 2 to 3 years. As government employees connive to capitalize off of the Chorney family's bodies, whether alive and or dead. Wow. Heavy words, don't you think? But, you know, injuring children at birth through medical negligence and then covering it up kind of falls in line with that sentence, right along with 3 deaths in the last 3 years. Plaintiff will not allow inoculation with an analog that was approved under an emergency clause that creates a situation where the inoculation becomes a scientific experiment to push mRNA technology that has never been proven safe in past studies over a period of 20 plus years. I have to come in letting them know that I'm like hip to their game, okay? Because you're like, well, that doesn't relate to your lawsuit. Well, yeah, it does, people, because gang stalking and targeting of families is an ongoing problem. It starts and it doesn't seem to stop, right? And the ramifications around such activity only gets worse, to where people die, people get injured, and the people that are the predator class that are causing these injuries are not being held to account. That's the point of the lawsuit, is to bring accountability to our public union sector and to their employer, those politicians that are supposed to be paying attention to what their children are doing. Remember, I'm just taking things off the top of my head, because this directly right there relates to the trademark. Okay? Because, again, how could I, as a free-thinking founder to a foundation, possibly demand people to be tagged before they could participate in an event that was hosted by New Nations Unity and their partner groups? How could I possibly expect that from other people? Just so I can make money. To say I'm helping the community. That's asinine. I'm not helping the community, okay, by making them do something that could potentially harm them and their families for life. So I have to find a way to write that down where it's like in 2 or 3 or 4 sentences, basically, because you have to, so that the foot's in the door and they're being held to account to the 20 years of hardship that their government, regardless of the party, created for a responsible, caring member within British Columbia, Canada, who actually went out of their way to try and do something positive for the province and the community and the country. And now they've basically taken it, and I don't know. I don't want to get gross with it, people. you can see where I'm going to ease that in, right? Daughter Sierra was criminalized for being, because you don't forget, Sierra is listed at the bottom of the lawsuit in terms of something fishy is going on there, and they need to figure it out, okay? So, daughter Sierra was criminalized for being a drug addict with the social label and now the government has reversed that criminalization against those who refuse their analog that is being misrepresented to the public. I refuse to call it a vaccine, people. It is not a vaccine. It is an analog. It is comparable to fentanyl, which is a manufactured synthetic, I guess you could say, drug. But they like to list fentanyl with their analogs. So that's what makes me like to use the word analog. Okay? So anytime you hear me say analog, it's the equivalent of what they consider to be a vaccine. Government has prevented all further park events. See, I'm jumping with my thoughts, but don't worry, I'll put it together, okay? Government has prevented all future park events or other community events, unless, of course, I want to go out there and fight with the fucking cops, right? And city bylaws and a whole bunch of crazy people with their masks on, right? You know? It's like the good old days, let me tear down my American flag, you know, you're doing a park event and all of a sudden you got somebody coming and trying to pull down your American flags and they're beaking off at you and ready to fight you and all this shit, right? Well, it's the same fucking kind of situation today, only now you've got the police force with their SWAT team coming in to fucking shut you down. So, you know, like, the government needs to be held to account to that shit because I don't agree with their politics, okay? Because I'm a living example of their politics in British Columbia, Canada. I've had 20 years experience of it. Let me just read the whole sentence. Has prevented all future park events or other community events by way of draconian rules that target people for not being inoculated with synthetic or fast-track vector vaccines that were not fully studied to be safe and therefore remain experimental therapies with no guarantee of not resulting in injury or death. Why now? With what I said. Knowing that, okay? Knowing what I know, people. Knowing what my family has been through because of analogs. Synthetic analogs that were being put out into the community to experiment on people like Sierra. Right? Why would I do a park event or any kind of event promoting that? Whether it's coming in from fentanyl out in the streets as an analog, or whether it's coming in as an analog through these injections that are coming in through the back door under an emergency clause that clearly is being manipulated for political reasons. Okay? So, being that I can't agree with the government's politics, right, you know, then I have to challenge it. And if they don't let me do what I want in terms of free-spirited, come as you are, and they want to sever me at the neck, it's enough that they've punched me out. It's enough that they've kicked me in the fucking ass. It's enough that they've punched me in my gut, chopped off my knees. Now they really want to go like this and be done with it with me? Then they need to compensate 20 years of effort as to what they've done to destroy not only my family, but anything that we worked for and sacrificed our lives for, people, so that we could have freedom in our community to actually come together and do something positive for the community. The government has severed that. They've destroyed it with what they're doing now. So I have to write this in. I have to. They need to compensate me for their inability of 20 years of playing, I guess you could say, fair. Right? In terms of allowing the community and their members to be able to self-empower to the point where, you know, we can get along. Right? Anyway, government has destroyed all opportunity for the foundation and the trademarks connected to it in the context of actual community events. Okay? Like, for example, the board director, he's Punjabi. The Punjabi community is going into its second year without a Vaisakhi. In other words, 3 years ago, they had a Vaisakhi, right? And there was like 500,000 people, mainly Punjabis, running up and down King George, not even 10 blocks away from me. 500,000. Okay, that's a lot of Punjabis. They were flying in from all over the place to come and to participate, right? It was one of their pride and joy events, right? For, you know, all the way down King George. Well, they didn't have it last year, and I guess this year they're being told that they can't because, you know, there's not enough people inoculated yet, right? And, you know, right? They have to wear their masks, and so anyway, Dr. God, Dr. Death, whoever she is to you, whatever she is to you, she's telling all these Punjabis now to stay home and do their Vaisakhi in their house. Okay, so board director comes along and he says, hey, you know, we have a federal right to fuck the cops, right? And we'll just go out in the streets and have our Vaisakhi. We've got federal protection, people. The trademarks represent federal protection, which in essence override provincial rules. Okay? But the thing is, nobody's got any balls out here to do it. So they're not going to do it, people. They're not going to do it. They don't want to start fighting with the fucking cops. Okay? You know, they're already losing with their businesses and their, you know, not all businesses, but quite a few businesses have already folded. A lot of people are barely making ends meet. And so, you know, why would they fight for justice? You know, they're not going to fight for justice so that they can have a Vaisakhi parade. Okay? I'd be like, let's go. Fuck the cops. That's what you need to do. You need to stand up to the government and say no, right? You need to have a loud voice and say no. But we know that, you know, they're being race baited and okay. And so, you know, basically the government has made it impossible for the foundation and anyone connected to it here in today's terms or in 5, 10, 15 years from now on the path that we're going on because of they're tagging people. And I refuse to participate in tagging people like cattle. Right? I'm not going to turn anybody away from a park event or any community event because they might be what? Diseased? Oh, please. And all the diseases in the world, and there's a lot of fucking diseases and communicable diseases, okay? What they're doing now, I mean, has nothing to do with disease, people. It has to do with tagging and controlling. Right? So on a federal level, that's pretty serious when they're basically making it impossible for someone like me to be able to go out there and do anything good for the community. right? Especially when you disagree with what the government is doing. And then I go on to say Uncle John's death, medically kidnapped, covered up. Shimei dead, murdered, covered up. So I'm thinking you have to write some things fast, say it fast, otherwise they'll be judged and be like, get over, aren't you done reading yet? Because that's how ignorant they are. Yeah, well, it's, you know, it's all watered on. Yeah, are you done yet? I can hear it now. Are you done yet? I can fucking hear it now. Okay. Shimei dead, murdered, covered up. Sierra dead, lured to her death, covered up. Andre permanently injured, illegally apprehended, covered up. Amari severely injured for life, medical negligence, covered up, with rest of families still being targeted for not being provincial junkies. So I'm going to remind the judge and whoever's standing next to me in terms of a government lawyer that my family is still being targeted even after all these years. That's the point of that. Have right to use federal trademark. I do, people. I do. Okay? And government corruption is preventing that from happening through a Nazi, and I'm going to write down Nazi, dictatorship that uses fear and assault tactics to divide people from coming together. Right? That's what I'm up against if I want to go off and try and do something good for the community. Covering up murder is not keeping families safe. Because they keep going on about, oh, well, we want to keep families safe. We want to keep people safe. You know, get your shot because we want to keep you safe. Right? Right? Medical kidnapping. How does that keep people safe? Illegal organ harvesting. How does that keep people safe? Illegal apprehensions and evictions. How does that keep people safe? Illegally removing people from social assistance. Right? How does that keep people safe? These are the things that the judge has to look at. And he can't just send it to the cops. Okay? The government, what? Gonna stand there and agree with the judge to send it to the cops? Yeah, okay. Injuring medical negligence that causes lifelong severe birth injuries is not keeping families safe. In other words, I'm reminding the judge why I'm there and what he needs to be focusing on. Continue to set family up for failure via personal attacks against members in the plaintiff family. Who is next? Who is next, people? Almost done. Did I read this side? Oh my God. I don't know. And then, of course, I'll remind them, right, that, has denied access, have been, right, plaintiffs has been, right, denied access to autopsy reports to cover up illegal organ harvesting and murder. Cannot exhume bodies for independent autopsies to fact-check medical and autopsy reports to cover up criminal activity that exploits vulnerable, homeless women into prostitution, women to prostitution, drugs, and snuff movies for profit, which is being facilitated by the public union sector. I will say that in court. I will have it in writing, and I will leave a copy behind. have destroyed 2 federal trademarks that are over 20 years old due to the ongoing targeting, public humiliation, false accusations, and permanent injury or death of family members listed in this notice of civil claim. Right? The more the government can make me look scandalous, right? Irresponsible, whatever, dysfunctional, whatever to make me look bad, right? To distract people away from actually participating in what I've been trying to do for 20 years. The more successful that they are at keeping the wealth under control for themselves. Okay? And now they've got me over a barrel, where it is that if I don't play their game the way they want me to play it, I will never do another park event again. And if that is the case, then they can fucking pay me out with lawsuit money. Because they've basically destroyed any opportunity from this point forward for me to be able to go out and do anything in the community, because I refuse to participate in a tagging system with an inoculation of something that might seriously injure these people for the rest of their lives. And I don't want to be a part of that, people. I don't. That's not why I started the nonprofit. Okay? That's not why I started the foundation. It's not. It's not. I wouldn't expect my family to do it, so why the fuck would I expect other people to do it just so that I can have them walk through my gate and make money off them? I won't. And the government will be held to account for that after 20 years of fuckery, lies, and deception. Government will now use their position of authority to further cover up heinous crimes, because we know that's not going to stop until they make it stop. And they can start making it stop by taking care of what happened to this family in terms of a full investigation, and then follow up on restitution around that investigation. And firing some people, getting rid of them, lock them up in fucking jail. Don't give them their superannuation life insurance policy. Remove them from the union, paycheck roll, right? Do something. Okay. Government will now use their position of authority to further cover up heinous crimes so they can continue to attack the plaintiff and her family, including other families, for personal and corporate profit. So in other words, I'm in court, standing in front of a crooked judge, right? Quite possibly threatening me with contempt of court because I will refuse to turn off my recorder. So, and then, because, they're all smart, whatever they're doing, they're going to want to keep doing it. So, before they acknowledge that the issues that I just mentioned are real and need to be addressed, they're going to call me frivolous, call me scandalous, say I'm the one that's being vexatious here. I should just lick my wounds, stick my tail between my legs, and go home and find a corner and fucking die, right? Cut my losses, right? That's what they think I should do. So did I read all this other stuff? Yeah, I did. So that's basically, this is getting ready for when I do go to court. I have to start typing it out soon. And of course I've got other notes written down and everything, but the more I'm getting ready, I guess you can say, thinking about, what the priority is here. I can't help but think what kind of role I want to play in any kind of community event in the future, whether dead or alive. In other words, I die and the board director takes on the foundation, and, you know, he leads the flock through the gate when I'm like at the gate saying, no, 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 don't go through this gate. This is not a gate you want to go through. Go over there and be free, right? You know, I don't want to be in death arguing with my board director that works with me on something, right? Saying, no, you don't want to lead the people down through this gate. No, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. So when do I have a right to stand up for myself and for the people? Well, I guess it's in court. I guess you can consider this perfect timing. This is perfect timing because I'm going to court, people. And I will be in front of a judge with legitimate politicians and lawyers, right? Powerful positions, like people in positions of, I don't want to say powerful, but they are, right? Like they can actually make change. But at the rate we're going, I don't, you know, the mission is to tag people. So, you know how you get that through against the ones that want to tag you for any kind of justice and freedom. So I guess I'm kind of a little bit of a freedom fighter in my own way, right? I don't take it to the streets. I take it to the courthouse. So I just want you to know what I'm doing. Now, I am going to read those signatures, but that's 1,500 signatures plus. So that's going to be another long video, I'm sure. And I'm just not up for that just yet. Right? Other than that, that's all I got to say for now.